committees. Congressman, thanks so much for joining us. As you know, President Trump has said China wants to make a deal to defuse this trade war. You're the top Democrat on the Intelligence Committee. First of all, do you agree with him?
Well, it's not whether I agree with them or not, Wolf. The Chinese, of course, today and yesterday announced countervailing tariffs. So, no, they're calling the president's bluff here. And, we're now imposing almost embargo-like tariffs on the importation of Chinese goods. Now, remember, when I say Chinese goods, it's kind of everything that most people are wearing. It's furniture, it's electronics, it's iPhones. And, of course, they've imposed that on our exports. So our farmers are about to get absolutely clobbered. And so, no, they are absolutely not backing down. And I know that it's fashionable for Donald Trump to claim victory, but, you already see the markets reacting badly today because they've realized that everything that the president said when he backed down yesterday doesn't touch our third largest trading partner, and that's China. And the fact that we're at embargo level tariffs with China is going to create havoc in the United States economy.
And the other picture we're showing right now, Congressman, the vote on the budget issue. So we'll keep monitoring that. But let's talk a little bit more about this trade war that's ongoing with China. At what cost do you think the U.S. potentially could win this trade war?
Well, the problem, Wolf, that this desire that the president has and that people like Peter Navarro have to bring manufacturing back to the United States, that's not a bad idea. Now, there's two problems with that idea, even though it's not a bad idea. Number one, manufacturing today in the modern era is not a worker-intensive thing. Go to a manufacturing plant today and you'll see there's lots of machines and there's not a lot of people. The second thing that is a huge problem is that you can't just all of a sudden, in a matter of months, grow a whole new manufacturing sector, right? It takes businesses years to come up with the plans to actually invest in manufacturing. And by the way, they're going to be a lot less likely to do that now because they've seen the utter chaos that comes out of the Oval Office. So, if they're thinking about building a plant in Scotland or in Canada or in Taiwan, and they're saying we could put it in the United States, but we may wake up tomorrow to 50% new tariffs, they're not going to do that. So, look, the underlying idea here of trying to bring American manufacturing back is not a terrible idea, but it's just not going to work in a way that doesn't create huge havoc. That's going to raise the price of iPhones, going to raise the price of automobiles, going to raise the price of pretty much everything that we buy as consumers. And, of course, it's going to devastate those farmers whose livelihoods rely on exporting grains and pork and other things to the Chinese people.
President Trump's advisors, at least some of them, say this pause in the tariffs was always part of the White House strategy. Do you believe that?
Well, look, of course they are, right? But Donald Trump himself, he said, look, people were feeling squirrely. They got to look at the bond market. No, of course not. He looked at one of the biggest market routes, equity market routes in history, and he looked at the fact that the bond market was losing confidence in the United States government, and he said, got to reverse course. So look, his flunkies need to always say what they always say, which is that this is a master negotiator who does everything right. But Americans need to take a quick look at their 401ks to see what this master negotiator has done to their well-being.
While I have you, Congressman, I want to ask you about President Trump's decision to have the U.S. Department of Justice go after two officials who have been highly critical of him, Miles Taylor and Chris Krebs. What sort of precedent potentially does this set? Both of these individuals worked for him at one point, but then they issued statements and articles critical of him.
Yeah. This is the kind of stuff that we used to see in the Soviet Union, where if you fell out of favor with the dear leader, you were prosecuted for having done so. I know Chris Krebs personally. He is one of the smartest, most capable, most ethical people around. And, of course, this will go nowhere. This will go nowhere because they will not find a single thing that Chris Krebs did wrong. But what it will do is chill people who might want to actually go to work for the elements of our federal government who keep us safe from cyber attacks. They're going to say, wait a minute, under this president, there is no way that I'm going to go to work to try to defend the American people because if I fall out of favor, because I tell the truth, the Department of Justice may be knocking on my door. Wolf, the American people understand this. This is like Bolivian dictator stuff from the 1950s, and it has no business in the United States of America in the 21st century.
All right, Congressman Jim Himes, thanks as usual for joining us.
Thank you, Wolf.